qualifying healthcare condition. The governor has listed those, and I can, if my computer will unfreeze, I can find those for you later. But those include things like cancer, heart conditions, diabetes, major risk factors for bad COVID-19 outcomes. Those qualify you for vaccination if you're in your 60s as well. So we are actually discontinuing our wait list because we have basically cleared it out. We did have quite a lot of people signed up multiple times on the wait list. So it ended up not being as long as we projected it to be. So last week we did all vaccinations from the wait list alone, and that really knocked it out. So we are still going through whoever is still remains on the wait list, but we aren't going to be adding more names to that because as things go forward, we really do. It's much more efficient with the limited staffing that we have to use the online portal. And so we know most people will have the ability to either, find someone that can help them if they are really not able to use an online portal for scheduling. So that's the major change, is that the wait list is being discontinued starting Thursday. We are really grateful for all of our partners at Benefis, Alluvion, Great Falls Clinic, DES, and of course, Great Falls Fire Rescue, Great Falls Emergency Services have been really critical. So many volunteers, so much hard work and collaboration from just a number of sectors. People have really worked well together, and I'm very grateful. I feel like I've learned so much about incident management and being a PIO with just like the kindest group of people that I could learn it with. So yeah, we love that our community members really want the vaccine, and we are very excited to someday be able to provide that for everyone that wants it. Hopefully that's everything you wanted to know. I'm happy to take any questions.
Anna, thank you.
Could you, the one question I have is that when Thursday comes along and has kind of changed, are you saying they should call the telephone number or get on the portal? And if so, which one and what are those numbers?
Yes, it'll just be the online portal. So there won't be a phone number anymore, and there won't be an email anymore. Obviously if people email the health department or call, we'll try and figure out how to get them help. But we aren't able to schedule for everyone. They'll go to the online portal, which is hosted on the Benefis website. And that website is benefis.org/COVID vaccine.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Tryon, go ahead.
You mentioned that you're going to have a special meeting of the City County Health Board tomorrow. Is that right?
That's correct, sir. 4 p.m.
Yeah, don't call me sir. Just call me director. Something else.
Okay.
I'm wondering, is there any reason why they wouldn't? I know that the goal was, I think, under 20. What was it, under 25 per 100,000 positive? Is that right? And so.
For 4 weeks
in a row.
Yeah, and this will be the 4th week. I don't have the numbers complete yet, so provided they stay.
So if you did meet the criteria, and it sounds like they has, is there any reason that and maybe Owen, you would like to weigh in on this too, that the board wouldn't go ahead and roll back some of the restrictions? And if you do, what are you looking at rolling back? Are you looking at the mask mandate and occupancy for businesses back to full occupancy or 25%? Can you kind of give us an idea of why you wouldn't do that?
I think I'd be the one to answer that probably. Rick, tomorrow is a special meeting, not a normal meeting, and it is at 4 o'clock. By then we'll have the data. If the data says we've gone 4 weeks, I think almost all the mandates that are there will then be lifted. But the mask mandate is not a county one. It's a state one, and that's already been lifted. But we may add that if we're getting worried. And I suspect that I've went and talked to a lot of businesses that are going to still require the mask until they feel comfortable. And I think I can't predict what we're going to do. There's 7 commissioners on that and our board members, and those 7 board members will be voting on that at between 4 and 5 or 6, or however long it takes to do that meeting, on whether or not there will be a mask mandate in Cascade. And just like on the commission, I never predict what the commissioners are going to vote, how the commissioners are going to vote. I won't predict that one yet either. But as I understand it, unless somebody brings up something to the contrary and says, let's do this, but it's not on the agenda, so I don't think they can. Those other ones will be lifted. The other mandates, other than the mask, because the mask was never ours.
However, the mask mandate was, I mean, the state has lifted the mask mandate, but the mask mandate remains in Cascade County. Is that correct?
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
We have the state mandate as far as the mask goes, and the mask mandate really hasn't been lifted. It's been said. The governor has said, number one, that the state is not going to have a mask mandate anymore. Number two, any counties still can. Number three, any businesses that want to have it still can.
Okay,
So,
good. Thank you.
That's what we'll be talking about tomorrow.
Anna, your area over there has done a tremendous job. You've come under a lot of pressure. This handling of the vaccination has been difficult for a lot of people, not only the suppliers and the vendors like yourself who are getting it out there, but you felt the frustration of the community. And I just think it's tremendous the way that you've worked really hard to get people the access to those vaccines that they need. I wouldn't be surprised if I see that waiting list come back online here as the gates are open for more people. But at this point, just going with the portal, I think we'll all be listening and watching from your office there to see how that works. And I understand that, you know, when we have Tricia on the call here on the meeting, you know, she helps direct policy, et cetera. And your job is really to get the word out to the community about what's going on there, and the best way to paraphrase it or to say it. So thank you for that, because all the directives have been in plain English and they've been understandable. And we appreciate all the work that you've done. So thank you.
So much, Mayor. That means a lot.
Yeah, I'll open this up to Greg and the staff. Is there anyone who wants to ask Anna a question while we have her here? All right, I don't see anything there. And Anna, thank you for coming. I think Owen has a couple other things to talk about in the health world, but we appreciate it. And go put your computer in the microwave. Get that thing unfrozen.
Okay, thanks.
Anna, thank you very much for agreeing to come on here. And I told you they wouldn't be mean to you.
You were right.
So,
Thank you, sir. All
I
right,
do have
everyone.
another subject on the in the health area, not has nothing to do with the county and so on. But if any of you would like to hear Dr. Fauci on a Zoom call to the Mansfield lecture series, I can give you that information. Tomorrow at noon, Dr. Fauci, in fact, I thought I was going to miss it because I thought our board meeting was at noon, but it isn't, at 4, so I'll be able to be on it. But Dr. Fauci is speaking to on the Mansfield lecture series. I think many of you are probably familiar with that. It's a series that goes on. I think there's one about every month, and anybody's can get on there for free. But what you have to do is register in advance. And the easiest way, instead of giving you a long email address, just get into either Bing or Google and Google Mansfield lectures, and it'll come up there, and you'll be able to click on it there, and then it'll get to the Dr. Fauci's one, and click on there to register, and you'll get an invitation, and you can watch it tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Owen. Appreciate it, and appreciate the work you're doing and getting all this organized for us. And thanks for going to that meeting tomorrow and keeping us updated. Thank you very much. All right, we will move on to petitions and communications for any public comment on something that's not on the agenda tonight. That's within our jurisdiction. And I'm going to go first to the Gibson room and see if there's any public there who wants to address the commission on something not on the agenda this evening.
Okay, we have one, Your Honor.
Okay.
Daniel Hartzell, 901 Central Avenue. Hello, distinguished members of the committee. Some good trivia, and not Brad Pitt up there, but we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and a lot of people don't realize it, and I never realized it, that it originated over on that island in New York with the Statue of Liberty, and it was teachers communicating the Pledge of Allegiance to immigrant children. That's how it started. The words itself, under God. The Board of Education does not refer to disasters as Mother Nature, but refers it to as an act of God. All our currency, in God we trust, in coins we trust. So we really owe a lot to the government and the Bible itself. Religion, those are two entirely different subjects. And what was there going through there? Oh, this being Black History Month, and the good things to that will start off with John Lewis. A lot of people on his eulogy or during his main speech, he said, "Be good trouble." All the people, hey, and I checked it twice. After that, he said, "Not devil trouble." So when people don't hear that, they kind of must believe. Martin Luther King, all men are created equal, same as President Lincoln said, and the bottom line there is got started off right. But
Danny, let me interrupt you.
Let me wrap it up.
Are you,
Martin Luther King was not just fighting for the colored people, he was fighting for everybody. There are good people who really care about people around them, and there are self-centered people, and that's what's going to be weeded out. Take care, have a good night, God bless.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else in the Gibson room who wants to address the chamber, the commissioners on something within our jurisdiction? Okay, I'll go to Lisa. Is there anyone on the telephone who would like to address the commission? You can, let's see, you can raise *9 to raise your hand to speak and *6 to unmute. Do you see anyone there?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Then we will move on to our first agenda business tonight, and that is item number 3. And that is an appointment to the Park and Rec Board. We need to appoint one member to the Park and Recreation Board, and I'm looking for a motion, please.
Your Honor,
Commissioner?
I move that the City Commission appoint Dustin P. Jacobs for a 3-year term through December 31st, 2023 to the Park and Recreation Board.
Second.
We have a second. Very good. And we will have some public comment here, but I noticed that our Assistant City Attorney, Joe Sick, is on there. And Joe, with just the 3 of us here forming a quorum, you'll let us know if we run into an issue where we need to have more than that present to pass on to something, correct?
Yes, Your Honor. Item number 15 gave me a little bit of concern, but we're not actually conveying or doing anything official tonight with real property. That would have been the one that would have taken a super majority. So basically, quite frankly, in order to pass or adopt anything tonight, it has to be a unanimous vote from all 3 commissioners. And number 15, the land issue, since it's not actually dispositive tonight, it's just accepting the resolution and setting the public hearing. Again, we still just need the majority of the quorum. So so has to be kind of 3 yeses or 3 noes on everything. So.
Okay, well, we'll work on that. So back on item number 3, which is to appoint Dusty Jacobs to a 3-year term and to continue advertising for the other opening. Is there any public comment for Mr. Jacobs, for, against, or just in general? Anybody on the telephone, Lisa?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, and is there anyone in the Gibson room to have any public comment? Steve?
No one to speak on that behalf, Your Honor.
No one, is that, I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
No one to speak on that issue, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any discussion amongst my colleagues? Owen or Rick, any comments about Mr. Jacobs? No? Okay, he's got, as a matter of background, I'd just like to read into the public record that the Park and Rec Board does consist of 7 members who act in an advisory capacity. 2 of those members termed out and weren't able to run again. We had one opening for the 2 slots. Mr. Jacobs is eminently qualified. We appreciate his application. We will continue to advertise for the other spot as well. So having said that, all those in favor say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Nay, nobody nay. So, okay, that's good. That will pass. Let's go on to item 4, which is the city manager miscellaneous reports and announcements. Starting off with I was going to say with the Bulldog report, but I don't think we can do there. That's his official city business right here. So go ahead, Greg.
Might come next time around, Your Honor, but
Yeah.
thanks. Good evening again, Mayor Kelly and Commissioners. The Aim High Big Sky Recreation Center project continues, and I'll start with a quick update on that. The planning process that is pending for the conditional use permit will start on March 23rd with a meeting with the Planning Advisory Board. And then that will move to an action before the commission around May 18th, where the commission will hear a resolution to vacate and consider the CUP for citing that recreation center at Lions Park. Of course, it's a public process. The public will have an opportunity to comment all the way through the Planning Advisory Board up through the commission on that. I know that the project managers, the design team has met with planning community development to do some pre-app coordination, make sure they have their bases covered. The design process continues, everything from utility layout to code review, particularly life safety issues, access in and out of the building and parking. There was a meeting with Neighborhood Council 9 last week. Some folks braved the Arctic temperatures to come out and hear a presentation from the design team. There were some concerns expressed and some thoughts about the project shared. The primary concerns were the loss of park function, open space, traffic generation, pedestrian safety, and then access on and off 10th Avenue North, all the things which the commission will hear and the Planning Advisory Board will hear through the CUP process. Definitely valid concerns, and we assured them that we would take a look at those concerns and try to address them during the design process. At our regular design team meeting that we had last go around, last week's was canceled, but it was interesting because Malmstrom just brought on board a new survival instructor who came out of Spokane and the air base that was there. He had some pretty specific things that he wanted to make sure that we understood were needed for military training needs. One of them, believe it or not, was this a winch that could either lower people into the pool or pull them across the pool to escape if they had like a landing in the water with their parachute. So there were some really unique aspects to that. And we want to do as much as we can to help facilitate and work with our military partners to access some of that equipment, because it really turns that facility into something very desirable for both Mang and Malmstrom. And to have that ability to do that type of training there is going to be real important for the air crews of both. I mentioned earlier that I had conducted about 12 hours of listening session over at the PD. Had Chuck with me during most of those. We left it open for anybody to come over and visit with us to talk basically about what they'd like to see in the next chief, and things that they thought were going well, things that they felt needed work, and then anything else that they wanted to share with me. An important process for a few different reasons. Number one, it gives an opportunity for employees at Great Falls PD to interact with me directly about their next leader. and to give me direct feedback. And many did take advantage of that. And I'm appreciative of the fact that they did that and felt comfortable enough to do it. And we heard a little bit from civilian and uniformed folks equally, and that was great. I've got a little something that I'm working on with the chamber to engage the business community on some of their concerns. When we get later into the process, we're going to bring some different community populations into the actual finalist review. We'll also be able to get feedback and input from those folks as well. So things are progressing along there, just to let you know. I received a note from Planning and Community Development that the city has received its ISO rating for basically residential and commercial construction. ISO is the International Organization for Standardization. Don't say it 5 times fast. But every 5 years or so, they come out and basically take a look at all the city's processes and procedures, code adoption, how we review documents, and they basically give us a rating. And the reason that's important is because the insurance companies use that rating to determine how much you pay for your homeowners. So I'm pleased to report back in 2015, our commercial had received a rating of 4. We dropped from 4 to 3, which in this case is a good thing for the community, in 2020, and residential stayed the same at 4. As I've been told from Planning and Community Development, the ratings range from 1 to 10. You want 1 being the most favorable rating that you could get. And with that, I was told that it's very difficult to reach a 2, and it's almost impossible to get a number 1, just the way that it goes. So I'm thankful that we landed where we did. Good job to Planning and Community Development for that work to sustain and get a better rating for the community. Great Falls Fire Rescue Station 4 is still on schedule. The department is hoping to take occupancy of the station by the end of next week and to get it into full service the first week of March. Good news for that station and for the neighbors out on the west side. And also, Great Falls Fire Rescue just wanted me to pass along that they've been seeing a number of sprinkler and standpipe system ruptures because of our really cold weather. So what they recommended to me that as things thaw out, that's when you're going to notice that you have a problem. So you might want to go into those areas of your business or your home that have water service that you don't normally look at, just to double check to make sure that you don't have any leaks there, because it can really cause some real damage to your property if it's left to run. Also had a bit of good news from Public Works today. The commission knows that for several years, the Public Works Department was seeking a grant for a North Bank stabilization project. Well, FEMA actually awarded that grant.
Wow.
We got notice of that today. That was in partnership with the Park and Rec Department and the Trails Group. And basically, it will stabilize a portion of the bank that runs proximate to 9th Street Bridge by the refinery that has been sloughing off into the Missouri. Not a good thing when you have a refinery there or you have a large sewer line that runs there. That's not a good combination. So they were trying to find a creative way to help address that, and they received this grant. It's about $350,000, and there'll be a match coming. I think the total project, if I'm getting my numbers right, is $450,000. There's been some design and scoping put into it already, and they'll be working with an engineer to complete the design to get it constructed. So I know that Public Works has worked long and hard to try to secure some money for that project, and congratulations for their persistence and getting that grant. Wanted to follow up on something that was discussed during Corsco's presentation. I just wanted to clarify something so the public doesn't think that the golf course is fully operating in the black. They may be operating better than they have in prior years because of changed management techniques and some of their marketing and so forth. But the general fund is still owed about $1 million from the golf course in order to eliminate debt that's owed to it over many, many years of operating losses. And then just to further add to that comment as we move forward, Corsco has been taking care of some of the small maintenance and capital items on the facilities, but the city is still responsible to do large scale maintenance projects. So as we generate revenue that is passed from Corsco to the city to address the debt that we have, we're also going to need to set some of that money aside just to do ongoing maintenance. That's all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission may have.
Good points. Thank you, Greg. Great news on that FEMA grant too, by the way. Waiting for that for a while. Owen, carry on.
Yeah, Your Honor, thank you. Greg is, we all got a letter saying that they're really disappointed that the roof on the aquatic center is flat and without slants. But the rendition that was sent out to me, I think today or yesterday, took a look at it. And if you look at that carefully, it looks like all the roofs are slanted. But I promised this person who called or wrote to check on that. Do you know that offhand, or if you don't, is it proper for me to call one of the architects there, one of the people on the project, and ask them?
I've already passed along the concern to the architects, and if you take a look at the facility, and I did send out some illustrations of what it looks like. The primary parts of it are sloped this way, and then on the north side there is a flat spot, and the reason that that's a flat spot in there that will have a drain for the water that's coming off on it is for the mechanicals. So they want to put the mechanicals in an area that it's not going to be out there, and you look at this big building and all you see are these HVAC, apparatus and machines up on top there. So that's what they're trying to do with that area. And I will just, when we have our next meeting, I'll just ask them to make sure that it's not going to create a problem with our weather. And the concern is understandable.
Well, honestly, if they have the mechanics up there, it's very well structured to handle that. I would assume, but that would be a good question to answer, to ask. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, Greg, I just wanted to ask here quickly about an issue. I appreciate Susie McIntyre and I had a discussion earlier about the change order coming up, and we're going to be discussing that. And it reminded me, as I saw that on the agenda, about the eye-popping change order that came up probably 6-8 weeks ago for $343,000 on a change order regarding a project Public Works was doing. And so, keeping my promise, I gave Paul, I called Paul and gave him a heads up that I was going to ask this question tonight. And I'm wondering if we could just get a little brief update without getting too far into the woods on where we are on the $343,000 change order that our taxpayers will be stuck with if we don't negotiate something a little better.
Well, we haven't achieved a satisfactory outcome yet, and we're going to continue to work with our legal team here to try to negotiate a more reasonable number. And so we're going to keep working with them to do that. And obviously, we don't want to telegraph that. I've been through a few of these over the years, and there's been some real doozies out there. And it takes a little while for everybody to get around the table and kind of work through who's responsible for what, and that's where we're at. Paul, feel free to add anything if you'd like.
Well, gentlemen, I'd like to limit the discussion on this if I could, because this is not an agenda item and it is something that's critical. Rick, you brought it up purposely, and it is a critical thing to talk about, but I really feel uncomfortable discussing anything about that without notifying the public that it's a topic that we'd be addressing. So just let's limit this to very broad strokes here, Paul, if you would.
Thank you, Your Honor. Commissioner Tryon, thanks for the question. Just following all the cautions that were just said, I don't know that I have a whole lot more to add to that. We're diligently working with the project folks and trying to find our way through a solution to that and pursuing a remedy for the city.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, you guys. Appreciate that. I think the issue continues to be of interest to all of us. So thank you for bringing that up, Rick. Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda, which is made up of routine day-to-day items that require our approval. I do need to read these out loud, so bear with me if you would, please. Item 5 is the minutes of the February 2, 2021 City Commission meeting. Item 6 are total expenditures of $2,797,756 for the period of Jan 16, 2021 through Feb 3, 2021, to include claims over $25,000 in the amount of $2,306,432. Excuse me. Item 7 is the contracts list. Item 8 is the grants list. Item 9 is to approve the application submittal for a FEMA Assistance to Firefighters grant by Great Falls Fire Rescue in the amount of $1,300,000 for an aerial apparatus. And item 10 is to set a public hearing for Resolution 10387, a conditional use permit for a worship facility land use upon the property addressed as 511 Central Avenue for March 16th, 2021. Do I have a motion, please?
Your Honor,
Commissioner?
I move that the city commission approve the consent agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a second?
Second, that motion, but could we discuss item number 9?
Certainly, absolutely. First, let me ask for a public comment out there. Is there anyone in the Gibson room who wants to comment on the consent agenda? Anyone in the Gibson room who wants to comment on the agenda? I don't know if they, okay, thank you. And then Lisa, is there anyone on the call who wants to comment on the agenda items?
Not at this time.
Okay, very good. Item 9 is the application for a FEMA grant. It's a 10-to-1 match, or 1-to-10 match, I should say. But Rick, your concerns or questions?
Yeah, just a couple of questions. I noticed in the background that the phrase in the background information here, I think it's like 3 sentences down. It says, talking about the 1996 Smeal 75-foot ladder truck. It says, unfortunately, this apparatus was not specified correctly for weight and service requirements prior to its purchase. And I'm wondering, how that, what is that? I wonder what does that mean, that it wasn't correctly specified for weight and service requirements prior to its purchase?
I can answer that, Commissioner Tryon. In 1996, obviously.
Who's that speaking? I'm sorry, we can't see.
Sorry, this is Fire Chief Jeremy Jones.
Chief, go ahead. Thank you.
In 1996, the technology and the materials used on apparatus were obviously of much heavier technology than today's. Because of the limitations of our staffing and what we respond to structure fires, we're required to carry more equipment than what is required on all of our trucks so we can meet all the emergencies that the public may face. HME, which is the manufacturer of the Smeal aerial that we are looking to replace, had some issues with their frames and their bodies. There was a class action lawsuit across the nation regarding their Quint apparatus back in the day. But we ended up sending our aerial back to the manufacturer to get strengthened on the frame, to get some body issues fixed. But ultimately, it's a moot point. According to the National Fire Protection Association, Annex D, they also recommend replacing aerial apparatus at the 25-year mark, which we are now at 26. So.
And then thank you very much, Chief. And the other question I have on that is the $130,000 that the city would be putting towards the purchase of this truck. Is that money going to be something that will be in this fiscal year, or if we get the grant next fiscal year? Is the money already budgeted, or is it coming out of some other fund that, like a capital improvement fund, or where would that money come from?
Our apparatus do fall into our capital improvement fund. I have been working with the fleet manager for the city, Doug Alm, and Melissa Kinsler in fiscal, and we'll address with the budgeting process upcoming if we're successful.
Okay, awesome. That's awesome. And I think it's great that you're applying for this grant. I hope we get it. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Rick.
And Your Honor, I do have one question, and that's on agenda item 6. And when we get down to parking, you don't have to really refer to it because it's an easy question. We are spending or have spent $149,000 plus on the parking pay stations. Is there any anticipated date for those being installed? Do we know? If not, it's fine. I mean, it doesn't affect my vote. I just was curious if anybody knows.
Craig, if you're still on, if you could respond to that. He might have stepped away, and I know that there was some additional conversations that they were going to have with the Parking Advisory Board, but I think he was going to press forward and try when the weather kind of got a little bit better and try to get those installed sooner than later. Is that right, Craig?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
The pay stations we just paid for, do you have any anticipated date for their installation?
It's actually coming up very soon. Our hope is to actually have them online and functioning April 2nd. But they'll probably start the install prior to that, obviously.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, if there's no other questions or comments, then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? No one opposed? Okay, very good. That'll take us to item number 11. And that is establishing golf fees, resolution 10384. We'll have a public hearing to approve or disapprove the park fees as recommended by Steve Herrig, our Park and Rec Director. Steve, good to see you. Carry on.
Thank you, Mayor Kelly and Commissioners. So before you tonight, we're asking that you conduct a public hearing for resolution 10384, establishing golf fees for the upcoming season. I would also echo what City Manager commented about earlier about the budget for the golf courses. You know, while it does look like we're doing well, which Courseco is doing a really good job, they're great to work with. We still have debt that needs to be addressed with the golf courses. We also have, increased operating costs, and then we will have, while City Manager noted that Courseco is doing a great job of addressing small capital needs within budget, we still will have some larger capital needs down the road that are coming. And then I did want to point out that there was a change on the resolution. Commissioner Moe did a great job of catching the adult weekday season pass was set in there at $750, which it should have been $570. Just wanted to note that for everybody. The golf board did approve they recommend approval of these fees by Courseco and for the upcoming year, starting April 1 of 2021. If you have any questions, I know Jeff is here in the audience. I don't know if Mike made it back on to the meeting or not, but if not, Jeff is here if you have any questions for him.
Okay, thank you, Steve. And so in the packet, you'll see that the fees are laid out with the increases, everything from a 3.65% increase on some items, 4.07, et cetera. There's plenty of information in there to digest. Staff, or rather commissioners, is there any questions specifically that you want to address to either the Courseco rep or to Steve Herrig? Okay, seeing none. We will then talk about proponents. I will open a public hearing here and ask if there's anyone on the phone who wants to speak in favor of these change in fees. Lisa, is there anyone on the telephone there?
No one with their hand raised, Your Honor.
With their hand raised, very good. And is there anyone in the Gibson room who wants to come forward as a proponent? Anyone who wants to speak as a proponent? Okay, I believe that's 3 times. Just for good old time's sake, anyone who wants to come forward as a proponent telephonically or in person, this is your time. Okay, then we will go to opponents. Is there anyone on the telephone, Lisa, who wants to speak in opposition to the change in the fees?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. And then in the Gibson room, is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition to these change in fees?
Not at this time.
Okay, so for the 3rd time, if there's anyone either physically in the Gibson room or in the telephone or on this call as a registered person, and wants to oppose it, come forward. Okay, very good. Then I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion, please.
Your Honor,
Commissioner?
I move that the City Commission adopt Resolution 10384, establishing golf fees.
Okay, we have a second? Thank you, Owen. Appreciate that. Any further discussion for the public's benefit? They should know that we had a work session with Michael Sharp, was it?
Mhm.
Help me out here. Okay, Mike Sharp. From
Mike Sharp.
Corsco kind of reviewed the year for us and talked about, I think what was really interesting was the fact that, they were able to stay open during this whole COVID time. The participation in play went from 19,000 up to 25,000 as far as rounds played. Very impressive numbers. That's a 35% increase. It was a great season, a great weather season for us to get out and play golf. And it was really one of those nice sanctioned outdoor events that was COVID safe, allowed by the county. And I think we benefited from the fact that there weren't many other choices for folks who stay in local. So it gave them a great opportunity to go out, see friends, and socialize while still being safe. Not sure we can repeat that again this year, but the presentation at the work session was pretty great and pretty encompassing with some good goals that they're looking forward to next year. And I'd also like to reiterate what Steve Herrig said about Commissioner Moe discovering that large jump that was a typo. I'm going to credit her with thorough reading, but also I bet her husband also saw it, and he's a golfer. So I imagine his reaction was had something to do with this. So really appreciate the heads up on that. So any other comments or questions by the commissioners?
Your Honor,
Rick?
I would just point out that we certainly have a lot of power, each of us tonight, don't we? Being only 3 commissioners here.
Don't let go of your head.
I mean, we could, I guess that there's could ask for some favors here. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. I kid. But it does give a lot of, lends a lot of weight to this vote tonight.
Sure
I don't suppose that, if there was a dissenting vote on any of these issues that we're voting on tonight, maybe Joe could weigh in. Would it have to come up again with a full complement of commissioners, or would that be would the vote tonight be binding?
If it is adopted, Commissioner, Your Honor, Commissioner Tryon, if it's adopted, then it's binding until the commission goes ahead and changes the resolution again. I'm sure it will happen where the fees have to be readjusted. If you vote against it tonight, if any one of the 3 of you vote against it tonight, the resolution is not adopted, and it can be represented.
Okay. Yeah,
when you have a quorum of the more of a full board sitting there. But like I said earlier, we've actually ran into this before, and Lisa, I'm sure, remembers, where we had 3 commissioners, and Sarah and I, said, no, it's just a majority of the quorum, because we were going off of Robert's Rules of Orders, not realizing that there is a resolution and a statute that says 3 out of the 5 commissioners have to vote affirmatively to adopt any kind of action. So if any one of you decide not to vote affirmatively tonight, whatever agenda item gets denied, it can be brought back, but it's not entirely binding.
Thank you.
I'll try not to recuse myself.
All poor golfers get the vote. All right. So having said that, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Great. And thank you, Steve, and thank you, Corsco, for a great job. Look forward to another good season. All right. That takes us to item number 12, agenda item 12, which is the final payment for the public library basement flooding mitigation project for CapCon. And this is to improve the increased contract amount in the final payment. And this is presented by Susie McIntyre, our wonderful library director. Susie, go ahead, please.
So we, as the commissioners know, we have had flooding in the basement for quite some time at the library. And actually in 2019, it became really severe. The the pipe, our storm drain pipe, the penetration of the wall was compromised. And so every time there was major water, we had water dumping into the library. So we went through the process where we, TD&H designed the project. We put it out for bid. Capcon was the low bidder. Unfortunately, during the project, we did run into a couple things that were unforeseen. I worked with TD&H and Capcon, and I want to thank Paul Scavina for letting me talk to some engineers that knew what they were doing. And the work needed to be done. The cost overages were stuff that couldn't have been predicted and needed to be done. So we are just asking that you approve it and make the payment. Jeff Short, who is the owner of Capcon, is here if you had questions for him. I think it's fairly straightforward, and I'm hoping that you will just let us pay them.
Thank you, Susie. Do I have a motion, please?
Let's see if I'm on the right one.
Your Honor, I can do it.
Go ahead, Rick.
I move that the city commission approve contract cost overages in the amount of $8,053.80 and approve final payment for the public library basement flooding mitigation project in the amount of $73,489.88 to Capcon LLC and $742.32 to the state miscellaneous tax fund, and authorize the city manager to make the payments.
Second.
Well, there we go. So, well, we've had a motion and a second, so thank you for that. Is there any public comment? So on the telephone, Lisa, is there anyone who wants to speak? You can *9 to raise your hand regarding this topic.
No hands are raised at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. And then in the Gibson room, Chief, I guess that's you that's been answering my question. Is there anyone there who wants to come forward to comment regarding this payment?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you very much. Susie, to open up the discussion here, this money that is being paid, this whole project, can you explain where the dollars came from and also the overage, where it's going to come from?
Well, this is fantastic news. We actually had a donation in the amount of $85,000 to pay off late fines when we went fine free last year. And then it was an anonymous donor, and the anonymous donor agreed to allow us to use that income on capital improvement. So a small portion of the overage will come out of our building maintenance budget, because we spent some stuff that would have come out of that line out of the donation when we thought it was going to be the lower price, but it should not have an impact on the library fund.
Well, please thank that anonymous donor for helping with a tough situation. It's a big deal. Any questions or comments from my colleagues?
Your Honor.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Susie, and I appreciate everything you're doing down there. As you probably know, I'm an avid user of the library. In fact, I was just there today and went through the pickup window, which, as I told you earlier, is just an awesome addition. I just think that's really, really very, very cool. And I appreciate everything you're doing down there. My question on this is, in the cost overages, it mentions the original job drawings mistakenly showed asphalt instead of concrete on a portion of 2nd Avenue North. What are those job? Where did those job drawings come from, and how is it that we could that they were mistaken asphalt for concrete?
So TD&H did the design, and on 2nd Avenue North, the street at the point where they were coming out to the main has that parking, extra parking. And so when they were doing the drawing, they just missed it, that was all the part where the parking is before the street turns to asphalt. And TD&H did give us a discount on their contract because of that mistake. So it, CapCon is over, TD&H is under.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, we've got Jeff Short from CapCon on the line here. Jeff, I think we may not need your expertise here tonight, which isn't always a bad thing. Owen, any questions or comments? No, I think it's very straightforward. Appreciate it, and glad that the library is drier going forward, especially with the weather coming on. So, Jeff, thanks for being here tonight. Susie, thank you. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, nay. That passes. Thanks very much. Appreciate that. All right, this will go to item number 13, which is Park District business. It's irrigation upgrades for J.C. Roosevelt and Valley View Parks, and to consider a bid and award the contract. And this is presented again by Steve Herrig, Park and Rec Director. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor Kelly and Commissioners. Staff's recommending award contract in the amount of $422,970 to Advanced Lawn Care for irrigation upgrades at J.C. Roosevelt and Valley View Park, and authorize the city manager to execute the construction documents. If you recall, last summer, we went out to bid for these 3 parks for irrigation upgrades. These are 3 of our manual parks. And we had 1 bid returned, which was over our budgeted amount, you know, and would have done basically 1 park and not touched the other 2. A lot of what we were hearing from the contractors was due to COVID, they didn't have the labor force to take on those projects. They didn't have the access to parts. And, you know, with Hunter and Rainbird plants both being shut down last summer, parts were at a premium to try to get. So we went back to the drawing board, thought we'll work with our consultant to get a little creative, extend our timing to get the job done with all 3 parks. And we also had some year 3 irrigation dollars. So we did have 3 bids come in this year, and this time around, and the low bid was Advanced Lawn Care. It is actually under the engineer's budget or engineer's appraised value, and also under budget for us. So we're really excited, and it does get all 3 parks upgraded. And Commissioner Tron, it will address some of our brown spots. It's just a start though. So we're getting there.
Very good, Steve. Thank you for that. Do I have a motion, please?
Your Honor,
Commissioner Robinson.
I move that the City Commission award a contract in the amount of $422,970 to Advanced Lawn Care for irrigation upgrades in J.C. Roosevelt and Valley View Parks, and authorize the city manager to execute the construction contract documents.
Very good. We have a second. Thank you for that. So Lisa, I'll turn to you for public comment. Is there anyone on the phone with a hand raised that wants to comment?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, and then back to the Gibson room. Is there anyone who wants to speak about the greener parks we're about to venture into?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you for that, Steve. Any discussion here with my colleagues?
Your Honor.
Rick?
Once again, just to say thank you, Steve, for the great job you're doing down there. You know, I appreciate you taking this on and everything you're doing. You're doing a great job, and maybe you don't hear it enough from some of us, but I just want to tell you that really appreciate what you do down there. I'm looking forward to these to this happening and getting some of these parks greened up a little bit. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Commissioner Tron.
Rick? Okay. Owen, any comment or question? We're good?
Nope.
I think we all feel that way, Rick. Appreciate you commenting.
Keep it green.
Keep it green. There you go. There you go. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, nay. That passes. Also, a great strategy, great tactic when you didn't accept the bid last time around, and it paid off this time. So well done. Well done. All right, so this is under ordinances and resolutions. This is item number 14, resolution 10388. And this is a resolution by the Great Falls City Commission amending resolution 8895, establishing district boundaries for neighborhood councils. And this is going to be presented by Chuck Anderson, our Deputy City Manager. Chuck, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. Before you this evening, you have a request to adopt Resolution 10388, which will include verbiage to amend and extend the boundaries of our existing neighborhood councils. In August of 1997, the City Commission adopted Resolution 8895, which established the district boundaries for our neighborhood councils. Unfortunately, not included with that resolution at the time was a process for neighborhood council boundaries to be extended upon annexations. Recently, Lanny Klasser, the communications specialist, was working with GIS to obtain new maps of the neighborhood councils. And they started talking about the process of updating land that's annexed in and how the neighborhood councils are extended. They called Lisa Coons, the city clerk, and together they found out that we were lacking that portion in the previous resolution. So together they put together their brains and they presented the new resolution here, which will include a formal means to extend and amend our neighborhood councils for now and in the future, where we are going to add a whereas paragraph. So from now on with the annexation process, the resolutions for annexation will include an extension of the boundaries of the city of Great Falls. So with you tonight, there is no fiscal impact for approving this resolution, and we would just ask for your favorable consideration or if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. Do you have a motion, please?
Your Honor,
Commissioner?
I move that the city commission adopt resolution 10388.
Second.
We have a second. Very good. Any public comment on this pressing matter, Lisa? Anybody on the telephone?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, and anybody in the Gibson room who wants to come forward?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you. Any more comment amongst my colleagues here?
It just makes a lot of sense, Your Honor. It's obvious and needs to be done.
Fairly straightforward. I agree, Owen. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right, that passes. That takes us to item number 15. And this is to set a public hearing for March 16th. And this is a resolution of intention 10385, intention to vacate the alley easement legally described as the west 20 feet of lots 1B, 1D, 1C, 1G, 1FF, 1FA, 1FB, 1FC, 1FD, and 1FE of Sun River Park Edition in Great Falls, Montana. Tonight, Craig Raymond, our Director of Planning and Community Development, will present this. And again, this is a resolution to set a public hearing for March 16th, 2021. Craig?
Thank you very much, Your Honor and Commissioners. Good evening. You hear me okay?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Gary and Nancy Martin, together with the majority of the affected neighbors, have requested that the city vacate the undeveloped alley between 24th Street Southwest and 25th Street Southwest from Central Avenue West and 2nd Avenue Southwest. The alley proposed to be vacated has never been improved or maintained by the city. According to neighboring residents, allowing public access has led to encroachment and maintenance issues along with other undesirable problems. Interestingly enough, some property owners have indeed blocked access over the years with landscape features, trees, fences, and even storage sheds. It has been described as you'd never know it was an alley. Staff is aware, though, that although support for the alley vacation is beyond the minimum required to approve the measure, it is not universally supported. What we know, however, is that each parcel will be able to maintain access to the public rights of way along the platted streets and avenues, as opposed to an unofficial, unimproved, and unmaintained alley. Just for everyone's information, all existing utilities will continue to be supported and protected by an easement. As such, the City Public Works and Northwestern Energy is supportive of the vacation. The requested action is that the City Commission adopt a resolution of intention 10385 and to set a public hearing for March 16th, 2021. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Appreciate it. Do I have a motion, please?
Honor,
Rick?
I move that the city commission adopt resolution of intention 10385 and set a public hearing for March 16th, 2021.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Very good. So for public comment, I want to note that we have received some correspondence, which is included in our packet, and we will continue to welcome correspondence from those for or against this particular resolution as we go forward. There has been a little bit of confusion as a proper notification wasn't issued several weeks ago when it first appeared on the agenda, and we delayed it to make sure that that type of notice was done and that Greg and his folks were able to get everything out appropriately. So there may have been some confusion by the neighbors of kind of on again, off again, but the intent here was to make sure that all interested parties were made aware of the process. And for those who have never participated in this type of process, I will remind you that we are going to have a public hearing on March 16th for this very topic, where we will also have an opportunity for you to comment for or against, either in person, telephonically, virtually, or by email. So we look forward to receiving more of your comments. So with that in mind, as we set for the public hearing, is there any public comment on the telephone at this point, Lisa?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Levine?
Thank you, Your Honor, Commissioners. I understand that this is just the first step in a two-step process and that final decision is not being made about vacating this alley now. However, I think that there is a very fundamental question that needs to be asked, and that is, why exactly is the city vacating this alley? And I don't think that there's a clear answer to that. I think it's just there's some landowners who don't need it and don't particularly want it, and so they have asked that it be vacated. But there are also a number of landowners, my client, Ms. Roxanne Cetera, among them, who do need this alley and whom it does benefit. And so that I think in this sort of a situation, the city should do what it can to protect those rights of access for the minority of landowners who do depend on the alley. And I also do have some concerns about what exactly the legal position that Ms. Cetera and her neighbors would be put into if the city does indeed vacate this alley. So I oppose even setting a hearing on it. I just think that this is something that the city should not do.
Okay,
Thank you.
appreciate your comment. Is there other comment on the telephone?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
That gentleman needs to *6 to unmute himself.
*6 to unmute yourself, sir, if you would, then we can hear you.
Yes, hello. I am a resident of that particular area of town.
And your name, sir?
And I am also a homeowner, and I am so against getting rid of an alley access.
Sir, can I interrupt you 1 second and ask for your name, please?
Well, my name is Steve Schoeneman.
Okay, thank you very much.
So we had purchased this property over 19 years ago, and it's never been a problem. Of course, the city always had a problem with maintaining it, which most of the residents didn't particularly care whether they did or did not, but we always wanted the alley access to get to the backs of our homes and trim our trees and do the maintenance on a house where you need equipment into the yard of the property. Some of these houses are so close together that you cannot even get into the back of the property unless you had an alley. So therefore, I believe this alley needs to stay and needs to be let go, that this city even have an issue with this alley ever again. I mean, it's been going on for years, and unfortunately, we are younger than a lot of people that are involved in this, and it hits us every time. And like I said, it's been 19 years since we've had purchased this property, and enough is enough. Just let it go and let it be, and do not get rid of this. And basically, that would be all I'd have to say on it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schoeneman. Appreciate your
Your
comment.
Honor, may I ask him a question, or is that proper?
Not really at this point, Owen. Let's
thank
move
you.
forward. We can discuss it at another time, but I would like, for the record, to let Mr. Schoeneman know that we're looking at a petition that's been signed from Gary and Nancy Martin with all the signatories to it, asking for the vacating. And Mr. Schoeneman's, your name is on that list. So
That's
if you
what I was
meant,
gonna ask.
if you meant to do that, that's fine. But at this point, you might want to check into that with the city on that. So I would recommend you head down that way. And because your name is showing as a supporter of this. Is there
I
anyone else?
have emailed the city twice on this, both this week and 2 weeks ago when they canceled the meeting. That was never supposedly supposed to even function as what it said it was.
Okay, fair enough. We'll take
Yeah,
that.
so I am totally against that to begin with. And I am going forward in the same position to keep the alley allowable and accessible as we purchased the property 19 years ago.
Understood. Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else, Lisa, on the telephone who wants to comment?
Oh, Your Honor.
Okay, and then Chief, in the Gibson room, is there anyone there who wants to speak?
Yes, Your Honor, we have a few.
Okay. Good evening, everybody coming up to the podium. All we ask is that you give us your name for the record, and you can indicate your residence if you choose to do so, but that's not necessary. We would like to know if you are in fact a resident of the city of Great Falls.
Yes. Good evening, Mayor Kelly and commissioners. My name is Nancy Martin, and
I'm Gary Martin.
we are the petitioners. We live at 124 24th Street Southwest. So when we purchased our lot in 2003 from Mr. and Mrs. Benioff, we were informed that it had an easement. And this was for access by utility and emergency vehicles only. This is also the description that is on our deed. Later, Jay Parrott, the inspector from planning who gave the setbacks during the construction of our home and our shop, also referred to it as an easement, as well as the zoning review that stamped our site plan. Last summer, Greg Event with the county planning mapping, after I contacted him by email asking him if this was an alley or an easement that I'd like clarified, he also labeled it as an easement and sent me an email with a document and a map from 1952 when it was set up. And I have all of these emails that I'm talking about and documents that in a packet for you. In 1954, Lot 1, Block 17 was annexed from the county into the city. Unfortunately, the alley was not abandoned when it was annexed. And during the years following the annexation, the lots were sold in their entirety and taxed on the full square footage of each lot. These properties had no deductions for taxes, and it has never was and never has been made for an alley, the deduction of taxes. By my reading on the City of Great Falls webpage, a public right-of-way, which is an alley, is not a taxable piece of property. In addition, the city has never utilized the alley for garbage collection nor performed any grading or maintenance. So this 20-foot parcel of land has been an alley in name only, but it has functioned as an easement all of these years. Also, if you were to drive down 24th Street Southwest, you would notice that every homeowner on our street has provided their own access to their backyards from their front yards. So they do not have to cross anyone's property to reach their own backyard. Because of the confusion of whether this strip of land was an alley or an easement, we are petitioning to have the alley abandoned. We acknowledge as an easement that it would still be accessed as needed by utility and emergency vehicles. I also have an email dated July 7th, 2020 from Diane Mullaney at Northwestern Energy stating that if the installation of a gate were ever to be put on our property, it would be fine as we would provide Northwestern Energy with a key for their access. We as property owners would like to be afforded the full, true ownership of our land. As it stands right now, my husband and I must allow public access to anyone who cares to cross our property. And as for any future resale hopes we may have, I highly doubt that during the disclosure process, we would find any buyers who would even consider purchasing a home on a city lot where they will have absolutely no control over public access on their property.
Ms. Barton, if I can interrupt, please, for just a second. At this point in time, you're allowed 3 minutes at the podium to make this presentation. I would recommend that you get together with Community and Planning Development at the actual public hearing. We may be able to assign you some more time to make a more thorough presentation, as you are the petitioner. But I'll check with council before we go through with that. But I encourage you to have the similar report available at the public hearing on March 16th, okay?
Yep, and I was
You're
finished.
on agenda items, it's actually 5 minutes.
Okay, all right.
So I just.
Oh,
make
thank
sure
you for
it's
that,
clear for
Joe.
the record.
Appreciate that.
The only thing that I had to add to that
Yep.
was with trying to resell any of these properties that are affected by that, it would be very, very difficult. And that anyone who bought this would be paying taxes on a piece of property that they will incur costly maintenance and repair bills due to the high traffic that occurs on it. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thanks very much. Appreciate your comments.
And City
Mr. Martin,
Commission.
you have 5
Yes,
minutes
sir.
too, if you like.
I'll be quick.
Okay.
So I'd just like to reiterate what Nancy said. I mean, she said it all. We bought that property about 18 years ago from the Benioffs with the understanding that there was an easement back there that was for emergency vehicles only, which we understand, you know, the emergency vehicles can come and go, but it should never have been a public access for everybody to use. We've had abandoned vehicles left out there. We've had people drive across our property when it's muddy, tear things all up. We ask them to help out, fix things. That doesn't seem to happen. Folks that needed to get across there and have ever asked to get across it have been granted access. Nobody has ever been told no. They come and ask, hey, can we get across this property? Absolutely. But that doesn't seem to be the norm. The norm is that people think they can use it whenever they want and drive across it. When we're paying taxes on it, we're maintaining it. I probably dropped $5,000 or $6,000 just maintaining that in the last 16, 17 years since we lived there. So what we're asking for is, we know where our property pins are located. We know what we pay taxes on. We just want we just want that to be given to us the way that we were told and the way it is in our deed. And so that's the only thing that we're trying to petition for, is so that we can have full ownership of our own property.
Okay.
Any questions for me, sir?
Nope.
Thank you for your time.
You bet. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who wants to comment on this topic in the Gibson room?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm Alan Graff.
Hello, sir.
I live at 2824 Street Southwest, Lot 1G. I purchased the property in 1991. My deed also says that is a utility right-of-way, not public access. And I have drawn up a invoice to the city of Great Falls at the city rate, $200 an hour for maintaining your property. And I will leave a copy here if you'd like. So I would really like to have my property back. And if the city would like to keep it, then I would recommend and demand the city to maintain their own property. And I will phone every week as I mow my yard. You have any questions for me?
No, we look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Andrew Benbow, 116 24th Street Southwest. I would like to reiterate that my deed also says the same thing, that is a utility right of way, not an alley. I would also like to add to it what Mr. Martin said about people going back in there. Since the city filled in those ditches that were over there, the drainage comes down to the back of my property, right on that piece of property that is in question. I am stuck every year, because it's having to be left open to anyone to use, of going out there and pulling people out of there. I have drug at least 10 people out in the last 4 years because they can't get through their heads. It is not an access there. Also, I would like to address in the lawyer's deal that was put in there, there was a deal about the wood haulers. That was me that she had an issue with. Down that easement, I had stopped that guy and told him that as long as he stayed on there, just back up and go out. She got into an argument with me and said they can use my backyard to turn around in. That's that part of it. So I would like you people to understand that at least that part of it, of what she put in there, is not true. That is it for me. Is there
Thank you, sir.
anything you want to ask me?
No, we'll see you at March 16th, I assume.
Thank you. Yes, you will.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else?
One more.
Okay, come on up. I'm cold just looking at you.
Hi, my name's Vicki LaRosse, AKA Bubba. Hey, I live at 120 24th Street Southwest. And as I'm gonna go with Steve, the gentleman that was on the phone, he has asked 3 or 4 times to come on my property to be able to go to his backyard to cut trees down. I've never had an issue with it. Anybody that wants to come through that alleyway access or whatever we want to call it today, I have no problem with. But back to Roxy talking about not being able to let anybody back there. What they're doing is when they do come in there, like Andy said, I have a shed that sits right in my middle of my yard. And what they're doing is they're driving down like this, making a circle, coming around my shed and going back out. I put $2,000 worth of gravel in my backyard because the neighbors behind us keep digging it up. They have no respect, none. You know, if they want to come back there, I don't have a problem with it, but they should at least ask. You have to use common courtesy. This is my property that you're flipping a U-turn to go around my shed and go back out. They've even used the side of my house to come up and down because I have a driveway down the side of my house because we didn't know for sure about the alleyway access. So I wanted to be able to get back to my own yard in case that ever got taken away or whatever. So the issue with me right now is I don't approve of them using my back half of my property to flip around to go back out. But as far as anybody asking if they wanted to come out there, they've always come up to my door, knocked, and I say, it's okay.
Okay. Thank you very
Okay.
much, ma'am. Appreciate it. Okay, is there anyone else who wants to come forward?
That's all, Your Honor.
Okay, and then Lisa, anyone join us on the telephone in the meanwhile?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, very good. Well, thank you for all your comment. And again, I want to remind you that we'll be visiting this fully March 16th. And I would imagine that we're going to have to get smart from our city attorney on some of the laws and litigation involved with this and get to understand this project a little better and also understand what the guidelines are here. But we'll go through this very thoroughly by March 16th and look forward to coming to a resolution one way or the other for you folks. Any other discussion amongst the commissioners?
Your Honor.
Commissioner?
Yeah, I think this it's kind of a revelation to me. This sounds like a pretty straightforward property rights issue to me, and I'm wondering if we couldn't get some a memo or some further information from our legal department here quickly on what the legal ramifications here are, what position this would put the city in legally, and also possibly financially. So what I heard tonight is, is very concerning. So I'm wondering if we couldn't get some little further deeper analysis from legal here and where we're at ASAP before the 16th.
Yep, absolutely. Go ahead, Joe.
Your Honor, Commissioner Tryon, what I will say is I'm actually looking at the original deed for what this strip of property actually was. It was done back in May of 1952. It had, and we talked about it amongst the legal department, that it's kind of strange. It's an easement, but it also says it's an easement for public right-of-way purposes, which are two different things. And that's why we're going through the more formal process of going through a right-of-way vacation while allowing a utility easement for Northwest Energy. Vacating an easement and vacating a right-of-way are essentially two different things, but vacating a right-of-way is the more formal process. The legal department will be happy to draft up more information for all of you regarding that. But as I know you in particular, Commissioner Tryon, are very concerned about is public transparency. So is the legal department's intent on this to make sure that we follow the more formal process in order to get this issue taken care of.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Joe.
Your Honor.
Commissioner Robinson?
What I would like to see is one of two things. It doesn't make any difference which one it is. I would like to see the map and have the addresses put on the map. Or I would like the petition itself that's been signed by everybody that has the addresses and put the lot numbers on. Because I'm having a hard time figuring out which lot goes to which address. And I think if there are several different ways of looking at it, I would really like to be able to look at that and say, oh, are you on lot 7FF or whatever lot number it is, and put that with the address itself. That would be very, very helpful for me.
Okay. Greg, those are your marching orders, I think, right?
Happy to provide that.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion on setting this public hearing? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, nay, that passes. We'll look forward to furthering this discussion on the 16th. That's great. That brings us to the end of agenda business on the agenda, and I don't have any reports or announcements. Rick or Owen, any comments or announcements for us here tonight? No. Okay, very good. No real legislative initiatives to talk about that Greg had spoken about. Again, I would recommend the public go to mt.leg.gov. Great access to what's going on down there. If you have an opinion, there's opportunities to state your case one way or the other. Having said all that, I want to thank the staff. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. I move we adjourn.
God bless you, Owen. We are adjourned. Good night, everybody. Safe trip.